Alrighty y'all, welcome to Ellis Mowers. We have quite a few things that are cleaned up and fixed and ready to be sent out the door here. The next project I can't even get in the garage because the tires are squares and it's just in sad looking shape because it's been sitting back there for a little while. But let me show it to y'all. Getting used to this new tripod thing here. I'm just holding the tripod and showing it to you. This is one of them square hood Craftsmans. It has square tires on it. I can't even pump the tires up, they're so bad. But it is a 12.5 horsepower, 38-inch cut riding mower. Everything looks pretty decent on it for the most part. Even the blades look pretty good. I'll have to see. Wow, the blades look pretty good on it from what I can tell. It just has been sitting a while. The 12.5 horsepower engine has compression on it. I can show that to you. And also, it has a new air filter on it. I'll show you that as well. I'll have to take this off anyways. There's a new air filter. So what I'm suspecting is the issue with this is, number one, it's just old. Number two, it just hasn't been running in a while. Probably couldn't get it cranked and the guy decided to park it. And a possible issue could be, listen to this. I don't know if you can hear that click, but the starter solenoid is bad on it. So that could be another thing, apart from all the cobwebs and everything too. We need to check, see if there's a mouse nest under here. Doesn't appear to be any sort of mouse nest or anything under there, which is a good sign. So what I'm planning on doing first is I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal of the battery, and we're going to replace the starter solenoid down there. I might put a different battery in it just for kicks, because this is an older battery in it. It was showing 12.2 volts, but sometimes they need to show more than that in order for them to run. I've got one new battery left. I'm going to put a new battery in it just to make sure that that's not the issue with it. And I'll throw that one back on the charger to get it up to fully charged. I trickle charge them, so it takes them a little while to charge. I don't think this one got 100%. Like I said, I'm going to make sure that it is not the battery and that it is actually the solenoid before I pull the solenoid off of it. So let me go ahead and get started with that. I'll confirm that it's the solenoid, and then we'll continue on. Alrighty, I replaced the starter solenoid on this. What I did, and what I'm trying to do, especially now that I have a tripod, is that I did a more detailed video on how to diagnose and replace this, which I'll attach in the comments section of the channel. Long story short, a new battery didn't do it, and so what I did is I replaced the solenoid. And now that I've replaced the solenoid, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the gas tank back on. I'm going to spray a little bit of carb cleaner in here. I'll show you that it turns over. Spray a little carb cleaner in there, and we're going to make sure that it'll actually turn over and run for us. And if it does, then we'll go through the process of replacing the fuel lines on the gas tank. From the gas tank all the way to the carburetor, we'll replace those fuel lines, and then we will see if it just see if it runs after that. I think it's got a carb leak, so Alright, so that's a good sign. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and replace the fuel line over here. Let me show y'all. Simply just going to replace the fuel line. I'm going to go ahead and put a, well, I don't have a shut-off switch yet. I'll eventually put a shut-off switch on it. And they're coming actually in the mail today, so I'll pop that on as soon as one comes in. I might be able to fetch another one, who knows. Replace all the fuel lines because these are really, really dry and really cracked. So I'm going to do that real quick. Once I get that in, get that done, I'll come back to y'all. We'll put a little gas in it and see if we can get this thing to run continuously. And if we can do that, then we'll move on with actually replacing the, might have to actually replace the tires on this. Look how bad they are. Wow. Might be able to get by with putting tubes in them. I don't know. I'll have to see what I've got here in the backyard, what I could use. I've got those flat-ish looking tires on the parts mower there. But I don't really have any extra front tires that have good bearings in them. So, and I don't have a tire changer. So we'll see what tubes do to them. If I can pull off tubes, then we'll do that. But yeah, so let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to do the fuel lines, and then we will. I'll catch back up with y'all. So the tank is a little dirty. I did put some gas in it. As you can see, I've got new fuel line in it. I'm going to see if this thing will crank over and run for us. The oil level is decent on it. It does need to be changed, but it has good oil in it in terms of the level. And so let me set y'all actually on the tripod. I'm trying to see if there's any leakage coming out of here. And we'll see if this thing will run. Wants to. Alright, so it looks like we're going to have to break into the carburetor. It's probably kind of what I anticipated I was going to have to do anyways. Considering the gunk and whatnot that I saw in the carb bowl. Hey, you never know though. You can always try. You never know what you might find. So, now what I'm going to do is find a fuel line clamp. I'll take the fuel line off, and then we'll take the I'll probably take the whole carburetor off here if we can. We gotta take this brace off first, this 5/16 brace, and then I'll might actually take the carb bowl off first just to see how bad it is under there. So let me do that, and then I'll catch up with y'all in just a second. Alright, here we're gonna take the carburetor off. I'll show you. This is what the bowl looks like underneath it. I just took a 7/16 inch 7/16 inch socket. And that's what I saw. The needle was actually stuck. I had to use a little lubricant to get it out. So 5/16 takes this bracket off. There's one on the top here as well. it secures the air filter. So I didn't tell you, this is a 96 model. So this is one of the later square bodied Craftsmans that they put out. Seven sixteenths. Get this bracket out of the way. That should take this off, I think. Just taking off the little tube. That tube is hard. Holy moly. There we go. So now we got the carburetor here, right there. And we got a 5/16 deep well to get that off. There we go. It's not ideal to be doing this outside, but these tires were squares, and so it was all I could do to get it up here. It's not too bad of a day, so. Would like to be able to save this carburetor because it's one of the older ones, older Marlboros. It's even got the little Briggs logo on it still, or it even has the Briggs logo on it right there. Just setting those aside for the time being. Take this off, we'll get the choke off, and we'll get the throttle off, and we'll go put it on the bench. Alright, that's the choke. That's the throttle, the little spring. I'll take my pan. There's the inside of it. I don't know if you can see that. We'll have to clean this out a little bit. We'll clean this out some. And simple carburetor otherwise. We'll clean out all the jets and stuff too. And we'll pop it back on. I'll get it on the bench and we'll clean it up. I'll get it clean for y'all and I'll show you after it's clean. Alright, let me show you. I know I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, and I know I'll probably hear about it in the video a little bit. Got most of the crud out, and then made sure the jets and the stuff in the carburetor are clean. The needle is moving freely in the carburetor now, and it is working, to my knowledge, properly. So we'll see. As long as the float works, then the seat's working fine, because I tested it by just having it closed and then blowing into it. I'm going to put the bowl back on, as long as all the seals are sealing up like they're supposed to, which they seem like they were before I took it apart. I'll put the bolt back on it. I'll clean off the edge of the bolt real quick too. Put the bolt back on, we'll put it back on the mower, just quite the opposite of what we did just a second ago, and then we'll see if it runs. So when I originally put the carburetor back on, the thing was pouring gas out of it. I don't know if it's going to do that right now, but what I've got. It's got a little gas in it. It should pour out. It might have just not seated the needle originally. It might have gotten stuck because I knew I had to lube it up quite a bit. It was just pouring out. You can see it right here on the ground. So what I did before I hit the camera, I started it up real quick. Now I'm just going to sit here to see if it'll actually leak again like it was earlier. If not, it doesn't sound like it's leaking, but let me show you. Let me crank it up for you. Put it on full throttle. Hopefully it'll crank for us. Choke. Again, we've only got about 2 hours of work in this thing. It's running pretty good, all things considered. See if it'll move back and forth. Alright, so let me show you. I've done a couple of things off camera while the camera's charging. Nothing that y'all haven't seen me done before. Tire tubes have been installed in all 4 tires. And now I can roll this thing, which is great. I also put a proper seat and a seat cover on it. The reason why I put the seat cover on is because the seat actually isn't married to the frame. What I did is I wrapped some duct tape around about 3 or 4 times. This works perfectly fine as a seat, so we're going to let that ride like that. I have taken the deck off because I knew I was going to have to do some deck work to it, and it's not too bad, but it just requires me having to put 2 new deck spindles on it, which, you know, they're $20-ish a pop, so not terribly pleased about having to do that. But one of them actually broke. Let's see, the deck. We'll have to take the deck off. I've got another one that I have to weld the bracket on over there if I use it. Or I might just decide to do a 42-inch deck upgrade. I'm not sure yet. I just know that I've got a, like I said, I got a good 38-inch right here, hopefully. Hopefully the mounting points for this side on the spindle are alright. As you can see, there's a little bit of wear and whatnot, and there's a crack on this one, so I might have to see if I can weld that a little bit after I get the spindle off. Or I might just take a big old washer and just go around it. But this one looks okay, but then you look on the side here, and it's a little tilted when you raise the deck up. When you raise the deck up, you see where it's a split on like 2 of the 3 mounting brackets right there. So yeah, that's not good either. So what I'm planning on doing here, I've got to take the nuts off for the spindles. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that's just a 15th, 16th with an impact. I'll take the blades off, and then I'll take the spindles off. When I get to the point where I take the spindles off, I'll throw the camera back on. These bolts will break off, bar none, without a doubt. I'll have to use the new bolts. Like I said, I highly doubt that I can get them without breaking off, but I might throw a little PV blaster in them and hope for the best. Usually they do not work on these older Craftsman decks, so let me get these off, and then we'll get the rest of it off here in just a second. But everything else is in good working order, and there's no like issues with the deck or anything like that that I can see, apart from a couple of damaged mounting points right there on the 38-inch on the spindle, on the right side spindle. Overall, the deck's in decent shape. I'll refresh the deck before I put it back onto the mower as well, just in order to give it that nicer looking look. Then obviously I'll wash the mower as I get down to it. This project though is coming along surprisingly well so far. I put a starter solenoid in it. I'm gonna have to put a carburetor in it. I put tire tubes in it. I got this as a lot of 5 lawnmowers for $200. One of them was a lot of 4 lawnmowers for $225. Or did I get 5? I can't remember now. But this one's one of them. I already sold one of the Lowe's one for $200, and so I've recouped most of the cost. And then this will put me in the profit on these, and I've still got a couple more that I've been taking parts on. That was a good parts lot though. I got the Troy belt and the green Craftsman back there. That honestly, I think I just need to put a wheel on it and put a halfway decent deck on it, and I think it'll be all right. And I got all those others over there. That's an aside. Let me work on the deck here, and I'll get back to y'all in a minute. So here's the carnage. Ended up getting the spindles off. There's really no way. Like I said, these spindles are in bad enough shape anyways. One of them had a hard time even turning. So it costs, see, you can't even turn that one hardly. And all the bolts basically broke on it whenever I took it off too. So they're about as good as trash, which is where they're gonna go. A pair of spindles for these costs about $36 from what I just saw that I paid for them. So this isn't going to be a terribly money-making tractor. Let me try and figure out how much money I've got into it now. Basically 40 in tire tubes, 40 in deck parts. Blades are good. Carburetor's about 20. So what is that? About 60 plus, what's 80 plus 20 is about $100 roughly. I'll have $100 in the tractor. It's going to be a $300 to $350 mower. So, you know, you kind of take what you can get with that. Like I said, it shouldn't be too bad though. I'm just trying to do mental math in my head here just to make sure that, you know, all this makes sense to do. And it does still. It does. I already, like I said, basically have broken even with the first one that I sold with the Lowe's. If going to get it, I probably like about $50 or so. So I'll be in the good after I sell this one. Sorry, I'm just trying to do mental math here, just trying to make sure everything makes sense. Didn't even have to put air filter in it. Fuel line and filter is negligible. They're less than $1 for that. So, yeah. Just kind of thinking about that. What I am going to do, the deck here, I'm trying to figure out which one I want to use. Either way, I got to do some welding, and I know I'm not going to use one of them at this point in time. I've got this one right here. That just needs welding right there and right there. Or I've got this one over here. Let's see, where is it? It came off of this mower, which I've turned into a parts mower. That needs welding right here at the back bracket. So like I said, I don't know which one I want to quite use yet. This one's got one good spindle on it, and it had two good spindles, but I tried to take one off and the bolts broke on it. Go figure. It's actually lying right here, I think. Like I said, all the bolts broke on it whenever I took it off, so that was glorious. But these spindles, I mean, these things are old anyways, so it's not going to hurt to replace them. They're a wear item. So, like I said, I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do. I think I'm going to keep it all original. Like I said, I got to weld it either way, and I've either got to put 1 or 2 deck spindles on it. If I can advertise it's got new deck spindles and such, then I might be able to get a little bit more for it. Paint it up, clean it up, and all that good stuff. I got to do a lot of cleaning up around right over here, but as soon as I get all them gas cans and stuff out of the way, I'm going to weld this. I don't show my welding jobs just because I'm not very good at it, but I will show you after I clean everything up here what I end up doing in terms of the finished product. I am not a fan of these 38-inch decks. They are not my favorite by any means, just because they are just so thin and cheap, and the brackets break on them like there's no tomorrow. The good news is this one's in pretty good shape. Just a little bit of surface rust, which is easily fixable. Doesn't look like the tractor had a lot of use on it, so I'm going to kind of fix these 2 areas right here. This one's okay, although one of the holes got walled out a little bit. Just a little bit of impact will tighten that down. I'm not going to use the big impact to put them back on because I've stripped out a couple of bolts doing that. So, yeah. And plus, you got the little cheap, or the aluminum casing and stuff in them. So, yeah, so let me go ahead and do this. I'll get back with y'all, and we'll weld it. The spindles are supposed to come today, so maybe we can get this thing wrapped up today, except for the carburetor, and just be waiting on some carburetors or a couple of mowers that I have. Alright, so we're going to put the deck spindle on over here. Got it right here. And what it does is you come down from the bottom with it, so I got to unscrew all these screws. Sometimes they have these already tapped for you, which is good. Again, the pair of spindles was $36. So, and it gives you the peace of mind that it's going to run and cut like it needs to. It's going to cut like it needs to. Oops. That's just a locking nut there. So I'm going to put it, bring it in from the bottom. You could, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get some washers that will fit this so that all the surface area is not hanging right there on that little area of the bolt. And so let me get the washers. Let me get some washers that'll fit this under the locking nuts, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I got some washers now, so let's do this. I'm going I just feed it up to the bottom. Put a washer down. This is going to help, I guess, ease the burden, so to speak, on certain areas of the deck. That way it's not pressing down on one specific area. Go ahead and tighten this up. Just got to line up with the bolt hole is the problem. We're going to hand tighten them. And I'm going to tighten them with just a little 3/8 impact. I'm not going to use my 1/2 inch because I do not want to break these bolts. And I got locking nuts on them, so that should help them a lot as well. Let's see. Put that one right here. And last but not least, obviously I'm going to come back and tighten those with an impact, but these actually came with like blade bolts as well, which is great. This side, since I'm missing like some areas right here on the deck, I don't understand why I'm missing, like there's a washer right there, so I'm going to put another washer on top, and the hole is a little walled out, so I'm putting the bigger washers on this spindle. I'm going to do the same thing with this spindle as the other spindle. We'll have both of them on, and then I'll go ahead and put the pulleys on and put the blades on, which are very simple. I even got the pulley nuts with these, so it's great. Just a 15/16 and a 9/16 will get them on, and we'll get the blades on. We'll get this deck back on. This thing's going to look good. I'm also going to paint the deck too, so you'll see that painted. I could do it before I put the spindles on or after. I just wanted to go ahead and put them on so I didn't have to wait for the paint to dry before I put them on. So you could do them in either order. So you'll see this deck all nice and black again, and here in just a second. I don't know if I showed you, I got this little crack in it right here, but it shouldn't really affect anything because of the mounting brace right here, and that's where I grounded it out to weld. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll get it back on the mower. I'll show you the mounting points because it's really hard to show you how to take it off of the deck, or take the deck off of the mower, and then we'll be able to test this thing out because it's running good enough. It's just leaking, the carb's leaking a little bit, and yeah. Alrighty, this is sort of a test run of this mower. I've got, let's see, it looks like I forgot to put it completely onto the deck pulley down here, so let me do that real quick. But everything's on it like it's supposed to be, from what I can tell. As you can see, I painted the deck on it. There's only, you got your 2 mounting points in the front here, your 2 on the side right there, which you have to take off in order to feed the belt through, as you can see, which I did not do correctly. I need to get the belt in over there through those 2 gaps, if you can see that, and then it runs around the pulleys up to the front pulley, which hopefully I can put on now. I'll put that pulley on, and then, or I'll put that belt on the pulley, and then I'm going to crank this thing up, and we're going to see how it cuts. I think I got to level the deck a little bit, but all the spindles are moving freely like they're supposed to, and all that good stuff. So, you know, hopefully this thing will cut. Still haven't fixed the carburetor yet. I'm still waiting for those parts to come in, but let me get this thing on the pulley down here. All right, everything looks good. Let me crank it up and we'll go for a ride. Looks good. Let's go for a ride. again, it's got a, that thing stopped weird, but the carburetor's need some work on it, so it's going to run a little bit better in the end. I think this deck is adjusted actually a little bit too high, because y'all probably saw the sparks come out when I put it on level number 6 earlier. So, and the way that this deck is, it kind of confirms that it is kind of high. So I just need to lower the thing. You can see where the bolts are very, 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 very high. So I'm going to knock it down. I'm going to knock it down quite a bit. The ones in the front are good. The ones in the back just look like they were extremely high. Because look how high that deck is. So if I can get it down to like level, where it currently is on level 5 for level 6, because that's the lowest setting that I got it on now. So I just got to balance out those on the side there, and then we'll be good with when it comes to that. Two other little things that I noted were that the brakes are a little weak on it, probably because they just need a little lube and a little bit of adjustment on the back here. I just need to put a 1/2-inch wrench on it and tighten it a little bit. And what else? The drive belt seems like it's a little warm, but it's still doing the job. It just takes it a second to pick up and kick in. I'm probably not going to worry about it. But I'm going to fix those small little things. When the carburetor gets in, we'll finish out this video. It's going to be a nice lawnmower to finish up with. I hate that I didn't have a better seat that I wanted to use on this. This is kind of the worst looking Craftsman that I've got right now. And I want to keep my nicer seats for my nicer mowers. So that's the reasoning for that. Seat cover is going to work out perfectly for whoever gets this. This is going to be a nice little mower. I have not mentioned that this thing's got like a bullet hole or something in it. I mean, that's crazy. The guy, I think, shot stuff out of his backyard because he had some woods and whatnot back there. And I think he shot it at some point on accident. Hopefully it wasn't. Hopefully people aren't getting shot riding this thing. It'd be kind of bad. But I got to change the oil in it as well. So just a couple of minor things that I got to do to it. Carburetor obviously is the biggest of all of them. And we'll get back to it. I'll show you a final look after I finish with all the small things and get the carburetor in. Alrighty, y'all, here's the final product of the Craftsman. As you can see, the deck I have refreshed and painted some to make it look a lot better, along with the bolts and whatnot around the spindle. The spindle is very sturdy. The new spindles are working great. I've tested it out already, and got the deck back down to a level that it needs to be. All the tires are pumped up and working great as well with the tubes in them. And I put the new carburetor in it. Y'all have seen me put carburetors in engines I don't know how many times. This one right here is just one of the standard ones. It usually comes with the shutoff valve. All I did was take a 13mm and loosen the bottom screw off of this. And I was able to take some wire cutters and just snip off that anti-backfire solenoid, because this motor does not have it. Now the thing is, this is a 12.5 horsepower. I got a carburetor for like a 19.5 horsepower overhead valve, like a 31,000 series Briggs, like a 31N 707 or something along those lines. I've had much better luck with them as opposed to, say, like a 287 707, like a 14.5 or 15.5 horsepower carburetor, because they drill out the hole a little bit larger, and that's actually what you need on basically almost all of these. They don't drill it out far enough for the smaller engines, and so it runs great, and doesn't smoke. The drive belt I think is a little bit loose, but it's working fine just for what it is. And the grab point on it's just higher than what I'm used to on a Craftsman. It's still pulling great though, so I'm not worried about it. As I mentioned, the seat cover, I've put that on because I don't have a really good seat here. As you can see, the the seat's trash, but I've taken some duct tape, and I just took the duct tape and just kind of wrapped it around, and so that's actually keeping the seat on and the seat cover, which is nice. Works for what it needs to. That's really the only sore spot on this mower, is that, and everything else works great on it. Headlights, the connector's melted. I don't really care about headlights, so I'm not terribly worried about that. But let me crank it up, and we'll go for a ride. How about that? And it's not surging anymore either, which is great. Let's see, choke. Hear how well it idles down too, even with this Chinese carburetor. Old flathead Briggs, you can't hardly beat them things. So it's running amazing. It's cutting awesome, as far as I can tell anyways. Might have to make sure that the choke arm is engaging correctly. It seems like it's binding up a little bit, but I just want to make sure that it'll cold start. Oh, I see the issue. I've got to cut off that little snippet right there, because it's interacting with the air filter, because the air filter is a little bit different on these because it's a flathead. So I've got to cut that little snippet off there, so that the choke works properly. Once I do that, because it's all it is a little tab, the arm hooks in somewhere else. So once I do that, this thing will be 100% ready. I'm going to crank it, or I'm going to just run over some of the front yard with it, as I always do with all my riders, just to make sure that it runs and cuts like it should. And once I have deemed that, I will sell this one as well. This is the first one. I got a little 1500 psi Coleman pressure washer that y'all saw a couple of videos back. This is the first one I used a pressure washer on, and y'all saw this mower in the video. and I really enjoyed using it. It got it actually decently bit cleaner than if I just use a hose, and the 1500 psi isn't really going to hurt anything on these things. So that's probably what I'm going to do from now on, just to get them nice and clean. This mower right here, because it is beautiful, this is definitely one of the cleanest ones I've had. This mower will probably fetch 350 to 400 down here in the south, here in North Carolina. Just for it being a little Craftsman 12.5 horsepower 38-inch cut. That's about all they're worth, unfortunately. Super nice mower though. Runs great, cuts great. What do we do? Starter solenoid, 4 tire tubes, new deck spindles. So we have a decent amount of money in this mower. Still stand to make a good couple $100 off of it. So anyways, looked nice otherwise. Fuel line, carburetor, painted the deck, just sharpened the blades. The blades are in good shape. And the belts are in good shape. I think the drive belt's a little loose, but it's still engaging and whatnot. And I think it'll be just fine. I'll lube this up a little bit right here for the just to make it a little bit smoother, so it'll engage a little bit better, or so that the brake will work a little bit better. Once I do that, I think I'll be just fine. So I appreciate y'all watching as always. You can catch me at Ellis Mowers 09 on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.